Okay, we will call this Agenda and Priorities meeting to order for November 18th at 3 p.m. and I'll ask Councillor Wing to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll move on to 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions? Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Dunham.
Barclay, I'll make that motion.
Perfect, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move into 3.1 with strategic updates with CEO Becker.
The priorities are there for council's consideration, and any questions likely in the next month or so after we get through the budget. We'll come back to you with any priority, maintain priorities or changes based on how you wish to proceed with the budget. So if there's any questions, council.
Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Bates.
Yeah, that was literally what I thought, because we've been looking at it over and over and not changing anything. It would seem to me that after budget, we do a reset or whatever you would call it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Are we going to be discussing the solar farm project soon?
Anytime. Mayor Barclay, if you have any questions in relation to that project, the status, be happy to provide what we know.
Sure.
At some point likely come back formally, but if there's any questions now is fine too.
Okay, I guess I would inquire about the status and what we're thinking.
Sure, Mayor Barclay. So, yeah, quick update. So we did our independent internal assessment review, or the need that went back to the minister. Looks like positive outcome. So we're waiting for a ministerial order now back from them in regards to proceeding in with the application. We're hoping that's the outcome of the whole thing. It's nothing formalized yet. After that, then next steps would be come back to council, talk to you about what those next steps, where the project is status-wise in regards to the pool pricing and the funding and the revenue projection and all that, and kind of give council a full update once we get this next step kind of finalized.
Okay, so we are doing a next step then, is your recommendation?
We'll bring it back to council in regards to, yeah, what's the project's future outlooks, and then what's council's comfort level in proceeding with what does that look like?
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the strategic priorities as information. Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'll make that motion.
Right, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move on to 3.2 with Fire Services Bylaw with Manager Leith.
Your Worship, Council. So I'm here to give an overview of fire services, revenue and services provided. The background for this is the Innisfail Fire Department currently doesn't charge for services within the municipal boundaries. Revenue is collected from motor vehicle collisions or responses outside of town, including Red Deer County roads. Fire and collisions on provincial and federal rights-of-way, highways and CP rail line. And a fee-for-service agreement with Red Deer County and for an Innisfail Fire District. Billing for highway responses goes through Alberta Transport at a fixed rate for each type of response unit, and through Red Deer County at the same rate for responses on their roads. Billing for fire services in the town of Innisfail would generate additional revenue and will be consistent with other communities. The basis for this change is that the current tax roll covers a provision of service, provision of fire services standby. However, the actual use of that service could be recovered through fees when the town incurs costs and expenses beyond routine response. Note, commercial and residential insurance does cover emergency response for fire, as does vehicle insurance in the event of an accident. False alarms have consistently risen over the last 5 years, with causes ranging from poorly positioned detectors, lack of maintenance, incorrect type of detectors, and fumes from cooking. Amendments will also provide mechanisms for our mutual aid partners to recover costs at larger incidents from those who are actually using that service with it and not the town. At this point, I do note that no charges have been made for those services when we've requested additional supports from outside agencies. The budgetary impact, it could increase fire service revenues between $30,000 and $40,000 per year. Administration has undertaken a drafting of a fire service bylaw and rates and fees bylaw that would allow billing for fire services. If council wishes to consider advancing the exploration of this additional revenue resources to help offset the increase in call volumes and associated service costs, a draft can be brought to council in early December.
Okay, thank you, Manager Leith. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Bates.
I can't help but feel that some of these came from a question that I might have asked as we approach budget, but it doesn't say in here specifically with the false alarms. What's the potential there for us covering our costs?
So, Your Worship, through to Councillor Bates. The way the draft is written currently, we would allow people 2 false alarms within a rolling 12-month cycle. If there was a third received, we would turn around and consider billing based upon the cause of that alarm. Unfortunately, we do have some which are frequent flyers, and this would hopefully address some of that. The fee on the draft is around $300 for that service.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see the draft. Yeah, I definitely feel personally if there's multiple ongoing calls, we can't just keep covering that for free. That's just my feeling, but thank you.
Okay, Councillor Heistad, then Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just commenting off of what Councillor Bates had commented, I think that they're, if we're giving them a chance, like or if they've had 2 false alarms and there's a third one, I would say, yeah, let's, we should penalize them in some way, one way or in one fashion. It's time and money, and that's how I'm looking at it. But we'll wait and see how the draft comes out. But that's just my opinion. And if Manager Leith doesn't believe, or if the fire department doesn't believe it's worth it, then I'll take your direction as well. So I'm just guys sitting here. But I could see where it does eat up time for you guys. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Yeah, I think sort of along the same lines as Councillor Bates, the false alarm piece. What struck me there was probably in many of those situations, because the cause of those fire alarms or false alarms are sometimes structural relative to the residents. You said that fire alarms were incorrectly placed, that kind of thing. Does the penalty go to the tenant, or does it go to the property owner? Like, I think I completely support it, and I would assume it's not covered by insurance if it's a false alarm. So I guess if we're going to expend time and manpower trying to get the money back, we need to be talking to the right person about it.
Yeah, Your Worship, through to Councillor Wing. The initial intent would be, if it's a rented property, ultimately it would go to the registered owner. So it's for them, certainly if it's an equipment issue, then it's their responsibility to resolve that. So that's why it would go through to the RO. And also if they fail to pay it, it allows us mechanisms to recover costs through tax roll.
So the question around, well, maybe more so residential than commercial, if someone doesn't have insurance, or would we just direct bill the owner, and what are the chances of getting paid, and if they don't pay, then, I guess you said we can collect through the tax roll, because I know you've let us know before, sometimes with the tickets that are issued through bylaw, we don't have a real high collection rate, and every time we go to court and everything, that it's quite expensive, so.
Yeah, Your Worship, the way the bylaw has been amended, it is recoverable through the tax roll, as we understand it. Certainly for those who are uninsured, the intent is not to cause hardship, and they will have a final appeal mechanism which would go through to the CAO or representative to see if those fees potentially could be waived.
Okay, so that the mechanism, Manager Leith, would be that the bill would go out to the owner of the home or the residence, and then they would collect through insurance, correct? Or do we go direct to insurance?
No, we would go to the registered owner
Yeah,
or
okay.
tenant, yeah, and they would push that bill through to their insurance. Very similar to if you requested service of EMS and an ambulance. If you
Okay.
were involved in a motor vehicle collision, if you were insured, you would pass that on to your insurance to
Okay,
recover the cost.
perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? I see none. We'll just have somebody please make the recommended motion. Councillor Heistad.
That council accepts the fire services bylaw report as information.
Perfect. All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Manager Leith. And next, I'll welcome up Ken Kowalchuk with a report on communications, the framework and inventory.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay and Council. So today I have a report for you, again, providing a framework and inventory for the Communications Department. The background, at the September 16, 2024 agenda and priority meeting, Council engaged in a discussion regarding service levels provided by the town's Communications Department. During this discussion, Council inquired about the current service levels and the potential for changes. In order to provide Council with a comprehensive understanding of how any possible changes will affect the functioning of the department, Town Administration has prepared the Communications Framework and Inventory document to provide Council with an overview of the department's current workload and capacity. Service level impacts to any changes. Additional staff may be required to fulfill any communications needs not currently addressed in the Communications Framework and Inventory, and current staff may be required to adjust workflow to accommodate any council requests. Not to say this can't be done, but again, for us as administration to make these changes, it's good that we all have an understanding of what our current workload is. I do want to point out the strategic plan alignment as outlined in the 2022 to 25 strategic plan. Council strives to enhance opportunities for the public to engage with the town and with each other, to communicate regularly and effectively with residents, to increase online service delivery to residents and businesses, and to increase access to town data and data analysis. So with that, you have the report included in your packages. If you'd like, I can go through the report with you, or open to questions.
Okay, thank you, Ken. I'll just open it up for questions. Does anybody have questions for communications? Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Through to Manager Kowalchuk.
I'm sorry?
To Ken.
There you go.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I butchered it. I appreciate your plan, and I know that some of the items in here are predictable. I was very interested in getting some information about what kind of effort, what kind of resources it takes when you are needing to respond to the community on social media.
So I thought about that one a lot, and the parallel that I would make, and sorry, Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Messaros. So I would make a comparison with like an emergency services department where the fire department is available at any given time, but they're not necessarily responding to an emergency all the time. We have to build in a certain cushion for contingencies like that. And in my experience over the past 5 years is we have things that come up in waves. So it's not so much about responding to individual comments that we'll see on social media. That's just part of our daily workflow. It's when larger issues tend to arise, and then we're dealing with an incident over multiple days. We're dealing on social media over multiple days. And like I say, we have the ability to push some projects aside that aren't as time sensitive to deal with those, but we do have to build that into our consideration of our time, knowing that things are going to come up where we're going to have to push things to the side in order to deal with those issues.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay, and through to Manager Kowalchuk. My question is relative to the social media policy that's dated 2015. And so in considering, I think, the significance that social media plays now in our community as opposed to traditional media, I mean, in 2015, we might have still had 2 newspapers here, but we certainly had print media in a much larger force. The Advocate was delivering daily. Social media has become a primary source of communicating now, I think, with the community. I just wonder if it's not time for us to take a review of that almost 10-year-old policy and reflect just how significant social media has become relative to our communications.
Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Wing. As you mentioned, it probably is time to review this, and we do have an updated policy that is, for lack of a better term, in the system. So I have reviewed this. I have actually added some different elements to the policy. I'm not sure where it is at the moment, but it will be coming at some point. One of the things that I've noticed in other policies and that I've added to this policy is our ability to respond and the parameters that we use when we're responding, so that we can keep things civil. So that we've added that element to the policy.
Thank you. That addresses my concerns. Thank you.
Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Through to Ken Kowalchuk. Having worked in marketing and communications for the last couple decades, I really appreciate all the work that you do, and I know how hard it is being a shared service throughout the entire complex thing that is this town. And I just want you to know that the amount of effort that goes into those things that are always on the side of your desk doesn't go unnoticed. So I really appreciate what you all do, and I think that you represent this town in a very, very positive way. And the messaging that we've been getting out over the last few years, I think truly represents the character of this town, and I think has really changed the face of this town as well. I think people really understand better what Innisfail is and what we represent. We had an opportunity yesterday to be at a bowling event, and some new people that have moved to town, I had an opportunity to talk with them. They've recently moved from Edmonton, and when they decided where they were living, a lot of their decision was based upon what this town represents, and that's the voice that you carry. So I just want to say thank you for that, and I think it's a very important part of it. We can do our jobs here in governance, and everyone else can do their jobs, but it's that forward-facing communication pieces that are so important.
And Mayor Barclay, through to Councillor Dunham. When we are putting together our messaging, we are always putting it through that lens of council's direction. So just be aware that what's discussed here determines the way and the messaging that we actually push out through the community. It's not always an arbitrary decision on our point. So it does help when you give us that clear direction. So.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the report. I think what struck me is how much you actually, not that I was doubting what you did, but when it's put into a report and you can see all the departments you support, like, you know, we maybe see the social media side of it, but we don't see the other 95% that's going on. So I really appreciate everything that's gone on that you've put into your report. I guess I'm also wondering, and just for something for administration to ponder, but, you know, maybe there should be a communications policy that's a little more comprehensive for council as well, if that's something that you're already delving into. And I'm not going to make a motion today about that, but I will leave that with administration to think about, and because ours is, you know, fairly short and a few lines, but, you know, maybe this is something that we should look into as far as having a little more detail into how we communicate as well, as a guide. Okay. Yeah, we'll just leave that with the CA.
Mayor Barclay, I will definitely discuss that with Senior Manager.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that my lack of questions represents satisfaction, so thank you. And for all of us to think about, no matter how whatever we do, we can't control that person out there that just wildly uses their social media. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, Your Worship, through to the marketing team. You guys, both of you do a great job, and I think Councillor Dunham said it best, that you know, you do such great work, and we don't see that. It's because we're the governance side, but there's a ton of great work that has gone on for the last few years. So thanks so much to both of you.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make a recommended motion? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'll move that we accept this report as information.
Perfect. Thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into 3.4, and a review of the municipal development plan with Manager Shaw.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Administration has before you today the draft municipal development plan for your information. Do you want to flip forward to the PowerPoint presentation? So at this point, administration has been working on the DMDP for a while. It's intended to replace the 1998 MDP that was adopted by Council and then consolidated in 2007. Typically, MDPs are reviewed every 5 to 10 years or so. So obviously, ours has been in need of a review for quite some time. And then typically, MDPs their shelf life is about 30 years. Obviously, you don't go 30 years without looking at it, but typically every 5 to 10 years you check in and see, are there any development trends or growth management issues within the community that you need to deal with, and then deal with it at that time. So where are we now in the process? So we're kind of like in between phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 2 is the create phase, where you actually prepare the document based on the information that you have received through the public engagement sessions, as well as through your research. Phase 3, the engagement phase, will be like an open house for the community to review this final product or the product that you have in front of you today. So We would anticipate that in the first quarter of 2025, we will be having an open house. So why do we need to have a new MDP? As I indicated before, our existing MDP is quite dated. There's a need to be able to make sure that we capture trends that are happening now. So when the MDP Advisory Committee looked at the MDP, they considered 3 possible paths to refreshing it. One was just to simply update the current MDP to meet the basic requirements of the provincial legislation. 2 was to create a hybrid document that reflected the 1998 document with updates and additions. And then 3rd was to create a new document reflective of new trends. The committee determined that a new document was definitely warranted, given all the changes that had happened in the community since 1998. So our content within the document, it consists of the following chapters, so total of 9 chapters altogether. Basically, the first 2 deal with the background to the community and to the MDP. Where the MDP actually begins is in chapters 3 through 8. So those would actually be part of the bylaw document. And then chapter 9 provides the mapping that supports the document in total. So the NDP is not a standalone document. There are supporting documents to it. One is the background paper, which Council has reviewed quite some time ago. The second one is the technical report, which deals with the technical committee reports to the MDP Advisory Committee. And then the third is the community engagement reports, which highlights the results from our engagement sessions that we have had with the public. So as I indicated, the NDP rests on these documents. So you have about 500 pages of information within the background report, as well as the technical report. So that includes also about 7 pages of references, that research documents that have been reviewed in the preparation of the document itself. So it's very broadly based on a lot of work that has gone on behind the scenes that may not necessarily have been seen either by committee or by council, but it's basically to ensure that we have a sound basis or a sound foundation when we make the recommendations for policy inclusions within the document. So in terms of a timeline for adoption, we're a little bit behind because we were postponed from an earlier meeting, but at this point the document is in circulation to government agencies for their comments, as well as to Red Deer County. So we would conceivably hope that we will have the final review by the advisory committee in early January now, rather than in December. And then in between January 13th and 30th, we'll have a public engagement or an open house. And then February 1st to 5th, incorporate the public comments into a draft document. And then February 10th, the first reading of bylaw. And then March 10th and 24th, the public hearing, second reading, and third reading of the document. So, as I said, what we have before you today is a report to be adopted as information. We wanted to be able to have like a check-in point with you so that you can see where we are with respect to the preparation of the new MDP. So communications will be working with us to finalize the overall formatting of the document itself. In terms of the actual policy development, that's probably pretty much developed as you see in the draft document. Certainly as we get feedback from the referral agencies, we'll be looking at tweaking those policies, but in essence, the document has been as complete as possible at this stage for your review. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Manager Shaw. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I don't have a question. I just have just a comment. This has been a very interesting project. There's been, I would say, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears has gone into this document to get it to where it is. Absolutely, you know, speaking for myself, but certainly I think speaking on behalf of the committee, we recognize the amount of work that our folks here in the office have done on this. In addition to facilitating a group of volunteers that sometimes we all struggled with the notion of putting that long-term lens in front of us. It's hard when you are participating in a community to put that day-to-day vision aside and look that far into the future, and consider consider that you're imagining what things could be like, as opposed to what are the dollars and cents today to make this happen within the short term. So I appreciate the patience, Manager Shaw, a lot, and also for Polity as well. I appreciate what you've done with the committee, and this body of work to me is a really good example of a good vision, but a heck of a lot of work, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? I'm curious, Manager Shaw, like through the process, and sorry, I haven't really had a good look at the maps because they were kind of upside downish, but was there any discussion around like changing any zoning? Like I guess I look out at C&E Trail, and we've kind of got industrial very close to residential or future residential development, and did that come up as something you looked at all, trying to separate that a little bit? Because we know that, you know, when you have that there will be, there's usually issues that come forth from residents because of the noise that's inherent in an industrial area and other things.
And so with respect to the land use framework, we were guided very strongly by the North Area Structure Plan in that area, which has already basically laid out what type of land uses, where they're going to occur. And so we were responsive to that existing framework. There have been a few tweaks here and there, but basically we have kept, in essence, the land use planning framework from the 1998 plan, as well as the updated statutory plans that have occurred between 98 and 2024.
Okay, thank you. And then tell me how, going forward, once we get past the approval stage, like tell me how this document is integrated with our other work that we've done, such as Power of Place. We have strategic plan, we have all these documents sitting there, and you know, there's some verbiage. I mean, this is obviously the largest, but there's verbiage in each of those documents. And how do we ensure going forward that this is in front of decision making? Because I think so often we have documents, we say a lot of nice words, but when it comes to making a decision, it's based on something other than what may be in
So, Mayor and Council, this is where we've adopted a more flexible type of format with the document to be able to ensure that it is referenced when we come to looking at policies or land use decisions in the future, kind of like what we have done so far, but to be able to come up with policies that are going to be not so much indexed, but focus on when it does come to council making decisions about future land uses. So in that way, it's a little bit more flexible than what the 1998 plan was. And also from the standpoint of administration, you certainly have one that looks at more what is the future land use going to be for the community. And that is what this document has attempted to capture through its vision statement as well as through its policy formulation.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, applaud the tremendous amount of work that went into into creating this
Well,
document.
we're not done yet.
I know, but so far, it's excellent. Anybody else have any questions? No, I just have somebody make a recommended motion then that we accept this report. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I would move that council accept the report for information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, thank you. Well done. And we will move into correspondence and information. I think there's, oh yes, the Christmas turkey dinner, December 18th. If anybody wants to go, put it in your calendars, please. Okay, thanks, Juanita. Could I please have a motion to accept the correspondence as information? Councillor Bates.
Sure, I'll move that, and I'll just make one other comment about that dinner. A lot of people think it's like a charity to them, but it's also a fundraiser, and so it should be supported to the most. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. And then we'll go into roundtable discussion with Councillor Heistad, please.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just this week is busy week for all of us with budget and CAPE as well. I'm going to attend the annual general meeting, but I just wanted to say to the staff and everybody that helped out at Dawn's celebration of life, it was a very nice, nice event. Like just to be there and to see the things that Dawn had contributed, you know, during his life. It was quite a nice, really nice event. So I just wanted to thank the staff and everybody that was involved. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Yeah, I'll have my full report for next week. I'd just like to echo Councillor Heistad's comments with many thanks, much gratitude to all of you that were involved in Councillor Harrison's celebration. That was a beautiful event. The elected officials' dinner was very well done as well. I also participated in Parkland Library's board meeting last week and was elected back to the executive committee, and then participated in Countdown to Christmas. So yes, it gets to be a really crazy busy time of the year, but a little gratitude right now I think is important. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. My report will be in next week. Once again, I just echo what my fellow council members have said about Councillor Harrison's day and remembering him and supporting his family. And yes, it's going to be a crazy week ahead, but it's one of the things that I think is fundamental to our positions here. So thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I also echo my fellow councillors with gratitude for all the effort that went into honoring Councillor Harrison, and to Mayor Barclay for all the work that she did behind the scenes to get everybody organized. I know she put out a big thank you to everybody else that was involved, but just wanted to mention her, and I'll probably get in trouble after that. But and the Christmas tree lighting on Friday was another excellent event, and it was nice to share it with admin, and thank you for all the work that you did there. And then just in terms of the rest of the week, it's a busy week, so it's all thanks.
Thank you, kind of. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, echo the comments, and so that Councillor Messaros doesn't get in trouble, I'll thank the mayor as well. Can't get both of us in trouble. I also enjoyed the municipal engagement. I missed the lighting of the tree, but I had a really good excuse. I was helping light the birthday cake on our granddaughter's 21st birthday. So, but the tree and the street looked amazing when I drove back into town. I had an oversight last week, and administration received a notification of a Government of Alberta both a survey and an engagement to do with water availability and reflecting back on our priorities. I discussed with the CAO bringing it up here, and it was an oversight on my part last week, but here it is. So there is this survey, and Juanita will circulate to all of council and probably to some of the major staff as well, I believe, should be done to complete the survey. And then there's an actual on-site, there's some telephone town hall type things, but there's an on-site December the 3rd in Red Deer. Can't remember the time, it's like 5 or 6 in the afternoon. And I would encourage as many of us to possibly go to that as can, because it's one of the 6 in Alberta and it's nice and close. Maybe doing the survey will give you the insight as to what else will happen there. So Juanita will be sending that around to us, and thank you, Juanita. And yeah, budget, as was already said by Councillor Dunham, it's probably the most important thing we do, and that we must give it our utmost attention. I also have one more future meeting that just came up in the last week through emails. Mountain View Water Commission is having a meeting on the 27th. It's talking about some potential expansion within our communities, which isn't a surprise, but the meeting wasn't set, so the meeting date is now the 27th. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I guess to Director Jenkins, thank you to your staff, you and your staff, for a wonderful countdown to Christmas. It was a fun evening as always. And congratulations to the Innisfail Seniors Drop-In Society, who celebrated their 50th anniversary yesterday. It was a full house and everybody was having a wonderful time. This last week was invited to an engagement with RDP, with the Board of Governors, and talk about various things. There was local mayors from Central Alberta at the table, and I think we'll be getting some communication from President Cullum, maybe about some advocacy work we can do to help in respect to kind of the about face on immigration that's happened in Canada and Alberta, because it has quite a big impact on their programs. And obviously we have industry here in Central Alberta and healthcare as example that need people in those programs. So looking forward to that coming soon. And yeah, busy week ahead. Looking forward to budget this week. Not going to be easy, but it'll be a good 2 or 3 days for sure. So thank you, Director Vickers, for all your work, and just make sure everybody's picked up their budget binders for tomorrow. So we'll go into upcoming events.
Mayor Barclay, just one correction. It's showing the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group meeting twice. November the 21st is actually that meeting, but November the 26th is the library, not the Municipal Users Group.
Okay, maybe you can
Thanks.
just
Yeah, I'll
email Juanita and let her know. And perfect, thank you. Can I please have a motion to accept the upcoming events as information? Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. And we will adjourn the meeting at 3:43.